back to Guitar Video Lessons, Soundbar Cape Town. It's the Absolute Beginners course and we're in term 2. So well done for making it through term 1. In term 1 we learned a whole lot of stuff. We've taken you from absolute beginner to knowing a little bit about something on the guitar and playing the guitar and music. Term 1 we learned a whole lot of stuff. So term 2 is kind of an extension from that, where we're going to continue to learn stuff, but we're not going to learn too much sort of crazy new stuff. We're going to take what we've learned and we're going to learn a bit more on that. So in term 2 we're going to be looking primarily at playing songs and pieces of music. We're going to start off nice and slow and we're going to work our way through the term, and as you go through the term you're basically going to be learning more technically difficult stuff and some slightly harder pieces of music and songs. But the goal is for you not to really recognize that. So each lesson is going to basically be a song, except a few where we're going to learn some sort of necessities. So as you learn your next lesson, you play your next song, there's going to be a bit of information. I'm going to teach you a little bit more on playing the guitar in order to play that song. And you're going to get through, so we're going to get through a lot of songs this term. We're going to do 2 classics, sort of standards for solo playing guitar. It's more classical guitar. It's Greensleeves and Malaguena. Those 2 are powerhouses. You learn so much from these songs. So even if you're not too into the classical guitar, very important that you learn these. Technically you're learning a hang of a lot. Your fingers are going to be moving around and they're going to be developing muscle memory and getting used to your guitar fretboard. So very important on those. We're going to take a look at something called riffs. Riffs in guitar is sort of your, if you think about Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple and you get that main sort of intro riff, those are what riffs are. They're small little sort of segments out of a song or a piece of music that are sort of recognizable and usually played a hang of a lot. So we're learning a whole bunch of riffs. We'll learn some from Smoke on the Water, we'll learn from Deep Purple, and we're going to look at Sweet Dreams, and we're going to look at sort of the sort of classics that you have to know when you play the guitar. Not that you really have to, but if you're playing the guitar and people want to hear these usually. So we're going to learn them. Slightly easier songs, we're going to learn some Snow Patrol, Chasing Cars, Zombie by the Cranberries, so those are your sort of easier songs that we're going to learn. Then we're going to go into some classics like House of the Rising Sun by the Animals. It's also an absolute must. We're going to learn some Green Day. Then we're going to go into power chords, which are chords that start teaching you how to move around on the guitar and get a lot higher. You're playing chords over here. And in those power chords, the main sort of song we're going to focus on ultimately is the Nirvana, It Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's an absolute must. And then, so we're going to do that. We're going to get through the term just learning songs, learning new parts that we need to sort of understand in order to play these songs. So technically we're just going to get better without realizing it, and we're going to be learning a whole bunch of songs. Until the sort of last lesson, which is going to be your prep and your theory sort of aspect of playing the guitar. And the prep will be for next term. And you're going to learn some, you're going to start learning how to teach yourself from the internet and all that sort of stuff, because there's so much out there. So it's valuable. So we're going to show you how to learn from the internet and start teaching yourself a little bit. We're also going to introduce you to the songbook this term, which is just basically going to be where all your songs are kept. And then after the end of term 2, your main focus will then be going through your songbook, making sure you can play all those sort of songs. Alright, and that is basically what we're going to be doing in term 2. In lesson 1, we're going to be looking at something called ornamentation. Ornamentation is basically, as it implies, it's an ornament on music. So it makes your music sound a lot nicer, and there's a lot of techniques and sort of stuff to spice up your guitar playing. Example. So there's a lot of techniques that we're going to be learning. We're not actually going to learn this song, that's more of a term 3 song. But there's a lot of techniques in the song that sort of spice it up and make it sound a lot better, as opposed to what we would have done in term 1, which would have been. Now we're doing these kind of things. So lots lots of little things to spice up your playing and make it sound a lot cooler. That's going to be ornamentation, and that's going to be our first lesson, learning how to do hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, bends, all of those kind of cool things. Alright, so let's get straight to lesson 1. Before you start, right, this is just a little heads up. Lesson 1, we're going to be doing a hang of a lot of stuff, and there's a large amount of different techniques, and some of them are quite demanding, and it may appear quite difficult, that amount of information in one lesson, but this is a lesson which you get to sort of revisit the whole term. So don't stress about finishing it in a week and moving on to the next lesson. Go through it and keep coming back to it. By the end of the term, you should be able to play a fair amount of the stuff in lesson 1. If you can play all of it, that's great. So just take your time with it. Don't stress out. As I said, it's a lot of information, and it should take you sort of 10 weeks, which is almost 3 months, worth of time to be able to play all of these things. So don't stress it out, and good luck. Hammer-ons. Right, first thing we're going to look at is something called a hammer-on. Put very simply, a hammer-on is when you play a note on your guitar and you hammer on with your finger onto the guitar. So you hammer on your finger like this. Alright, but we don't do that at random. We're going to play that within our scales and within our chords and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to do this with the tab straight away. And we're going to go through and we're going to learn exactly how to play a hammer-on and why we play one and what it sounds like. First thing we've got is our first exercise, and you can see that there's a 0 and then there's a sort of a line above it, a little loop, going to a 1 with an H above it. That is telling us we're going to play our thickest string open, and I'm going to play it over here for you. It then wants us to hammer on to play our second note, which is our first fret, like that. So we're going 0, then we're hammering our finger on to play the first fret. And what we've got there is we're playing once and we're getting 2 sounds. So a hammer-on is like a 2-for-1 special. You're going 0, 1. That's a hammer-on. So it creates a particular sound. You're playing one note and you're getting 2 notes sounded. Just like that. So you play it once and you get 2 notes. 0, hammer on 1. So your finger literally has to hammer down on the guitar. So that's going to take some time and some practice, getting that strength up, hammering down on the guitar. And now you'll notice in the rest of the exercise that it wants you to do that for each string. So we go into our next string and we play it open, and it wants us to H, hammer down onto the first fret on that same string. 0, hammer on 1. 0, hammer on 1. And it wants us to do that all the way through. Alright, so what you've got is you playing a note and you're hammering on the second note so that it's sounding without you playing it on this side. Alright, so you're getting 2 notes for the price of 1. Let's look at the next exercise. They're asking you to do exactly the same, except they want you to hammer down onto the second fret. So 0, hammer on 2, and we're going to use our second finger for that. 0, hammer on 2. And you're going to try and aim to get on the tip of your finger. You often make mistakes, and that's fine, especially whilst you're learning. You might also not hear any sound coming out of your guitar, and that's just you need to get stronger hands, and eventually with a bit of time your fingers strengthen up and they just hammer down a lot easier, and you get a sound out of it. So for now, just keep practicing hammering down. 0, hammer down on your guitar at the right place. 0, 2. And then they want you to do that for the rest of the string, so just practice doing that on the next string. And the next. Alright, and I'm going through this quite fast to show you what it sounds like. Alright, so you get to stop the video and you can practice that nice and slowly on your own. The next two exercises are exactly the same. They're just asking you to hammer down on the 3rd fret, and you're going to use your ring finger for that. And then the 4th fret, and you're going to use your ring finger for that. So let's just have a look at that very quickly. 0, hammer down with your ring finger on the 3rd fret. 0, hammer down, and you'll get 2 sounds. 0, 3. Right, and then you go through all of your strings. Next exercise, a little bit trickier because now you're using your pinky finger, your last finger, and you're hammering down onto the 4th fret. 0, 4. You might not even get anything out of this, it might be ridiculously impossible. In that case, just don't stress about it, just go through the motions. It's not often that you actually have to do hammer-ons like this far apart, using your pinky in this position. So this is just a practice getting your strength up a bit on your fingers. Alright, so stop the video and go through that very slowly on your own. Go through those 4 exercises. You're hammering down on the guitar, creating 2 sort of sounds out of your guitar by only playing once. So you play once and you're hammering down so that you get 2 notes. Play once and you get 2 notes by hammering down onto another note. Right, and the last part we're going to look at is instead of playing open hammer-on, we're going to play a note hammer-on. So make sure you stop the video, make sure you practice those open string hammer-ons over and over and over until you kind of got them. It should take you a while. And then take a break, let your fingers recover, and then try again, and then join in this last part. Alright, let's take a look at that. You've got open string. I'll play over here for you. Hammer down onto the 1st fret. Good. And then from the 1st fret, you play it again. And then with the little H, you hammer down onto your 3rd fret. Right, so you've got open, hammer down 1. Then you're playing 1 and you're hammering down 3. Open, 1 with a hammer on, 1 again with a hammer on 3. That's going to look and sound like this. Alright, take a bit of a break, practice that on your own, and then go through the rest of the tab with me. Alright, and the next part of the tab is 0, hammer on 2 with your 2nd finger, and then you're going to play 2 again and hammer down with your 3rd finger. 0, 2, 2, 3. Alright, and then you're going to just follow the tab and you're going to do exactly as is asked. When you're going to play an open hammer onto a fret, and then you're going to play a fretted number hammering onto another fretted number. So first it's open hammer on, and then it's going to be 1 finger to another finger hammer on, and you're going to go through that whole tab. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play that whole exercise, this sort of last exercise, all the way through nice and slowly for you as a reference point. And then you're going to practice it all on your own, and once you've kind of got through everything, then you can practice along and play along with me. Alright, so here's that last exercise. there we have it. That's the last exercise. So for hammer-ons, you're hammering onto your guitar and you're creating 2 sounds for the price of 1. So you play once and you get 2 sounds out of it. That's the basics of the hammer-on. So stop the video, practice each little section one by one, go through very slowly and work your way through till that last exercise and play along with me. I am going to be going through these exercises quite quickly, so make sure you stop the video and make sure you go over and over and over and refer to your notes as well. I'll have detailed explanations there as well. And that's basically how you play a hammer-on. Pull-off. Right, so now we're going to do something called a pull-off. And it's basically the same thing as a hammer-on, except we're doing it in reverse. Instead of hammering on a finger onto the guitar, we're going to pull off a finger off the guitar. So we're going to go straight to the exercise and have a look. What we've got is we've got the same sort of setup. Everything looks the same, except now we are doing everything in reverse. So we're going, instead of going from 0 to 1, we're going to be going from 1 to 0 in this first exercise. So you've got the 1, then you've got the little line above it, the little loop, with a P on top, and that stands for pull off. And then it's going pull off to 0. So you're playing 2 notes again. You're going to start with your finger on the first fret, thicker string. You play that 1, and you just take your finger off. You pull it off, and you get your second note. That's a pull-off. So the hammer-on was on, and the pull-off is reversed. Simple as that. You start with a finger on, and you pull it off. And in the exercise, they're asking you to do that on every string. So we go down to the next string, and we play it, and we pull it off. You're still getting 2 sounds out of picking just once. Pick it once and you pull it off. 1, pull off, 0. Now you can sort of smudge your finger to the side to get a more defined pull off. You can just lift your finger away. It's up to you for now. Sometimes you can do that, or you can do that. For now, just practice pulling your finger off. Right off like that. And the next string, next string. So you're getting 2 sounds out of 1 pick. Playing your finger on and you're taking it off. You play the note once, and you take it away and you get your second note for free. There we go. And then all we have to do is play the other 3 exercises, which are the same as the hammer-ons. You're just pulling them off. So I'm going to go through those 3 nice and quickly. So you can stop the video now and you can practice just doing your pull-off on your first fret. Playing 1 with a little line with a P, pull off to your second note. 1, pull off to 0. It's 2 notes for the price of 1. Alright, so the second exercise, 3rd and 4th. You ask the second exercise, you're going to use your second finger and you're going to play on your thicker string, the 2nd fret. And you just pull off to get that open string sounded. 1, pull off. 2 sounds by playing once. And you practice all the way through those strings. And the next exercise would be with your ring finger at the 3rd fret. 3, pull off, 0. If you smudge it too much, you get that, which we don't want. So you can just give it a nice lift away. And then the fourth exercise, again with the pinky. You might not get sounds. I'm not even getting great sounds out of it right now. And you go through all of that fourth fret. When you pull your finger straight up, you don't get as great a sound as if you pull it off like that. So we'll get to that. And we get to that further on when we start learning to play songs. When we start incorporating hammer-ons and pull-offs, I go through them in a bit more detail. So for now, it's just kind of getting your hands used to it, practicing it within some scales, and just literally getting your hand a little bit stronger. So the pull-off is identical to the hammer-on. You're just doing it in reverse. Instead of hammering on onto your guitar, you're pulling off of your guitar. All right, and the same thing applies. I'm going to do one now, which starts with a fretted pull-off to an open pull-off. So we were going on a hammer-on, we were going 0, 1, and then 1, 3. We're now going to do that whole thing in reverse. We're going to start at the 3rd fret, so let's look at our tab. We start at our 3rd fret and we pick that. And then this finger we're going to leave behind, already pressing down on the 1st fret. We're going to leave that there. So these are both pushing nice and tight. And then you take your 3rd finger away. Now, if you're not pushing tight here, it's just going to go. So you've got to make sure you're pushing this nice and tight so that you've actually got a note ready to be sounded. If you're pushing too soft, you don't have a note that you're going to fall back onto. So you've got to make sure that note's going to be sounded. So it's starting here, it's quite a big stretch. Your hands are going to take time in getting used to this. You're pushing nice and tight here, you're pushing nice and tight here, and you're reading your tab. And your tab says, play 3, pull this note off so that it plays 1, 3, 1. Just like that. So your hands are going to get tired because you've got to push a lot and your hands are going to get stronger. 3, pull off to 1. Then when we're at 1, we play it again, and we pull off to 0, to 0, like that, or like that. So pushing 1 and 3 nice and tight, you get the first pull off, 1, pull off 0, so you need 2 pull offs, 3, pull off 1, 1, pull off 0. Okay, I'm going to play that a couple times in a row so that you can hear what it sounds like. Alright, and the same thing applies. We're going to go through the rest of that exercise tab, and we're going to practice doing a pull-off with fretted fingers, and then the open pull-off. And I'm going to go through this very slowly, and I'm going to go through each string, and then you're going to stop the video and you're going to practice, and you're going to just practice it on your own until your hands have gotten stronger and all of that sort of stuff, and then you can rejoin the video and try and play along with me. This does take quite a lot of time, a lot of practice. It gets very frustrating, both hammer-ons and pull-offs, because you want it to sort of happen now, and you want to hear those notes straight away. That doesn't often happen. Often you've got to put in a lot of practice, a lot of time, just to get some sort of sound out of the guitar. Now these exercises, we're doing only hammer-ons and pull-offs. They're usually subtly put into songs, so you'd only need to play like a handful throughout the whole song. So don't stress too much, don't worry too much, just keep practicing your hammer-ons and your pull-offs. Alright, so let's get to the last exercise. I'm going to go through it very slowly, once through, and then you're going to refer to your tab, and you're going to make sure that you're reading and you're practicing that tab and you're doing the pull-offs where necessary. Alright, so here's the last exercise. Next string, we're going to be going three, 2, 2, 0, 3, notes already there. 2, 0. Both notes on. 3, 2, 2, 0. Next string, it's the same thing. 3 and 2. 3, pull off 2, 2, pull off 0. Next string we only have to do 1. The 2, pull off 0. And then 3, pull off 1, and pull from 1 to open. And the last string, the same. 3, pull off 1, 1, pull off 0. Alright, and we're going to do that one more time all the way through. I'm just going to play it all the way through. Alright, so stop the video, practice that on your own. It's probably not going to sound anything like that at the moment. It's probably going to be very difficult and you're going to think, mine's not working, why is mine not working? It is working, you just need to develop a bit more strength in your hand. And it's a sort of coordinated feeling that you've got to sort of get between right and left hand. You're playing the note, then you're pulling it off, and you're playing the note and you're pulling it off. So there's a bit of coordination, a bit of strength that you have to develop, and you're just going to practice slowly through the exercises until you get to that last sort of tab, and you're going to work on that, work on that, work on that. Take a break, go back to term 1, play some songs, then come back to it, move on to the next videos, practice some more. Just slowly build it with time, these hammer-ons and pull-offs. You're going to develop them slowly. Your hand won't get strong enough in one day. It'll take a few weeks before you start noticing. And then even after a few months, few years, you start getting really good at it. So the songs that we are going to learn this term are just going to be very subtle. There might be a pull-off here or a hammer-on over there, nothing too dramatic. So it's like sort of practicing those sort of harder chords we learnt at the end of term 1. It's just preparation. So now you know what a hammer-on is, you know what a pull-off is. If you encounter them, at least you can play them. And you'll be able to play them fairly well if you practice these exercises. So, stop the video, practice through very slowly a pull-off. Playing a note, you're pulling off. Either you're pulling off to an open string, or you're pulling off from one finger to another finger. So you need to make sure that you're pushing nice and tight and you're getting lots of practice. And that is basically how to play a pull-off. Hammer-ons, pull-offs and trills. Right, so we've learned the hammer-on, we've learned the pull-off, and we're going to learn something called a trill now, and we're also going to learn how to join our hammer-ons and pull-offs. So in the hammer-ons and the pull-offs, we went through sort of each fret and each string at a time. We're not going to do that now. The idea is that you can do it on any string and you can do it at any fret. Sometimes they're open, going onto a fret, sometimes they're on a fret going to open, sometimes you've got a finger and you've got a hammer on to another finger and pull off and vice versa. So basically everything that you've learned with a hammer on and a pull off, you can do together, you can join them, you can do a hammer on and a pull off. So a hammer on and a pull off, we're going to look at our first exercise. And we're going to only be doing it sort of on one string just to practice. I'll bring my hand here so we can have a look. We're on our third thickest string, and what we've got now is we've got a 0, 2 and a 0 with a little sort of line above it, that little arch, and it's an H and a P. It's a hammer-on and a pull-off. So now instead of getting 2 notes for the price of 1, we're getting 3. It's going 0, hammer-on 2, and then pull off back to 0, 0, hammer on, pull off. So we're getting 3 notes. 0, 2, 0. 0. We're getting 3 notes, 0, 2, 0. And you can do that on any string. And you can do it at any fret. 0, so it starts open, then on, and then open again. That's a hammer-on, pull-off together. Hammer-on and a pull-off. And you can do it any fret with any finger for now. So you're going to get that movement. It's a open, on, open. So you literally, if you look at it physically, you're hammering down and you're pulling off. You're literally going like that, and you're playing a note. So 6, 5, 4 onto our D string. We're going to be going onto the 2nd fret for that first exercise. So this also takes a bit of coordination. You're playing once, hammer on, pull off straight away. You might not get that sort of sounding all the way through. It might be a bit difficult. And again, that's just a sort of practice between right and left hand coordination as well as strength. Open, hammer on, open. We're using our 2nd finger because we're in the 2nd fret. You won't always be using your 2nd finger for your 2nd fret. Sometimes you'll have to use your 1st. Depends on the song that you're playing. But for practice, we're doing like that. 0, hammer on and pull off. So you shall hear 3 notes. 0, 2, 0. And there's a kind of a roll on your fingers that you sort of get to feel. It goes on and off, and you're kind of rolling your finger and your hand on it. And that is a hammer-on and a pull-off at the same time. Now we're going to do a pull-off and a hammer-on, and we're going to do it in the same place. So, let's have a look at that 2nd exercise. We're starting on 2, on our 6, 5, 4, 4th string, the D. We play the 2, we pull it off, and then straight away we hammer back on. 2, 0, 2, join with a line, little arch with a P and an H. Now the P and the H and the H and the P and all that, that's not always going to be written in your tab. It depends on the length of which the person's gone to when they've written the tab, on how much they're going to detail it, but it's basically pretty obvious. That little line is going to mean play all of those notes together once with one sort of pick. That's the sort of universal sign for that. It's a hammer-on and a pull-off, or a pull-off and a hammer-on. So you're going, starting on 2, playing open, going back to 2, all in that same movement, joined together by that arch. So 2, open, 2. And again, you can do that on any string. On, off, on. You can even do it up here if you want to get crazy. And then you start getting more exciting. So the hammer-on and the pull-off, you're going to hammer on and then pull off in the same movement. The same with a pull-off and a hammer-on. So they kind of start smudging together. There's no sort of distinct way of saying it or writing it or playing it. When you see them joined, that means you need to play these notes together, just playing it once with your picking hand or your strumming hand. So you're playing it once and you're playing those notes together, those 3 notes. Alright, so you're going to stop the video and you're going to practice. You can practice on any string, you can practice it in any fret, you can practice 1, 2, 3 and 4 for a bit of sort of strength in your hand and on your fingers, so that when it comes to playing a song, you've practiced all of your fingers and you've got strength in them so that you can play appropriately that song. So stop the video and practice doing a hammer-on and a pull-off, and then practice going pull-off, hammer-on. So hammer-on, pull-off, and you practice that. And then you practice doing it the other way. You start with it on, you pull it off and hammer it back on. Alright, so now this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. You get something called a trill, and that's where you kind of keep it going, to put it very simply. You hammer on, pull off, hammer on, pull off, hammer on, pull off, hammer on, pull off. Just keep going. So then it sort of starts smudging between whether you've started as a hammer on or a pull off. It starts getting sort of smudged and it really doesn't matter. You're going to be doing this concept called a trill, which is where you keep that note rolling. And it's going to look and sound like this. If you look at the tab, there's a couple of ways of sort of writing it out. The first sort of exercise, it literally counts them out for you. You've got 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, 2. It means you're going to play once, and that loop is saying play all of these notes together. So you can count them out, or you can just know that you're going to keep playing that over and over until it wants you to play the next part of the song. So we're going to do it 8 times. There's 8 notes there, so we're getting 8 notes for the price of 1. So we're going to start on this D string again, and we're going to play it once, and this is what we're going to get. The trill. It's when you're playing the hammer-on and the pull-off alternately, sort of repetitively as well. So you're going on and off and on and off and on and off. And again, you can do that on any string, you can do it on any fret, and you can use any finger. But for this exercise, we're practicing it on the D string. You're going to play this, and then you're going to hammer on 2, pull off, hammer on 2, pull off, hammer on. What you'll notice is you don't need this hand anymore. Right, yours might not sound quite like that as well at the beginning. It takes strength again and coordination to get that sounding. So you start getting notes sounded without even using this hand. And that's what you're going to practice trying to get to. Same on any string, any finger. Alright, so that's a trill. You keep it going. Now we can look at the sort of next exercise. It's the same thing. It's just written a little bit differently. You can see that there's a 0 with your sort of hammer-on pull-off line. The legato is the correct term. That is telling you to play a hammer-on, and then the little TR on top of it is telling you to trill. You're going to keep that going. So you start with your 0, you hammer-on, and you trill. Now these trills last for a particular sort of count in music. Like when you strum, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll indicate in the music or the song how long you need to trill for. So it might be 1 count, or it might be 4 counts or 8 counts or whatever. And you just sort of count along. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's very basically what you're going to be doing. Those notes are broken down into little half seconds or quarter seconds, etc. But we get onto that at the end of the term. Basically, what I want you to get to is a sort of point where you're just playing these on their own at any sort of position on the guitar at any fret, so that you can get a lot more strength and you can get a lot more sort of power out of playing that. What we can also do, we're going to look at one last little bit, is we can do our trills on fretted fingers as well. So we can play with our second finger on that same place, on the 6, 5, 4, the D string, and we can do our trills like that. They're a lot harder for now as you sort of learn to play. doing is you're playing a trill between 2 and 3, for example. Same on the string. So you've got a trill with a sort of finger and then the next finger, and then you've even got trills where you've got a space like that, like on our 1st fret, 3rd fret, and if we have to do a trill, we're going to get that. So basically your hand needs to get a lot sort of stronger, and you need to develop that strength with time, and then you're playing hammer-ons, pull-offs and trills and all that sort of stuff together, and you're doing them at sort of any position within your scales. But that's a little bit complicated. We'll get onto that further in the term. For now, just want you to practice doing your hammer-ons and your pull-offs, and then your trill. And your trill is just where you keep it going. It's either open or it's fretted, like that. So what we've got now is we've got our hammer-on, our pull-off, and a trill. So you get a hammer-on and a pull-off, and a pull-off and a hammer-on joined together, and then you take it that step further and you start doing a trill, and those trills are going to sort of keep it going. And it's great practice for this left hand, and it gets the strength up. So practice those trills over and over and over and over and over and over, as well as your hammer-ons and your pull-offs, and join them all together. And with time, your technical ability will go up and you'll get a lot better at playing the guitar. And that is basically how to play a hammer-on, a pull-off and a trill all together. Slides. Right, we're going to learn something called a slide now. It works in the same sort of fashion as your hammer-ons and your pull-offs. You're going from one note to another by just playing once. Now instead of hammering down or pulling off, we're going to slide to our next note. Right, so let's have a look at the tab. What we've got there is we've got a 1 on your thicker string, and then you're going all the way to 12, which is your last dotted. Your guitar should have dots on it, mine doesn't, but it'll be your double dots over here, the 12th fret. You can also count it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're going from your 1st fret to your 12th fret by playing, so you're going to push nice and tight here, and you're going to play once, and then you see that little sort of slanted line going from low to high, saying slide all the way up to your 12th fret. That's what a slide looks and sounds like. Alright, so you're sliding along your string now. And the way we do this and the way we get that sound is we push nice and tight here. And as we play our note, we slide our finger along the guitar until we reach the note that it's told us to play to. So, in order to sound that and to keep it sounding, you have to keep pushing your finger along the guitar and pushing through the fretboard so that there's constant pressure on that string. The minute you relax your finger, the sounding of the string goes away, so you lose that effect. So if you go, you lose your note. The same applies when you're sliding. As you slide, if you release the pressure, you lose the sounding of your note. So you have to make sure you're pushing all the way through the fretboard until you get to your note. So you're sliding and you keep that pressure. Like with your trills, you can almost hear it without touching the guitar. You can hear that slide. You also get that sort of string sound, which is fine. Just ignore that for now. So you play your string once, and you slide it all the way up to 12. You can do it fairly quickly, and you make sure you're pushing all the time. You're pushing this way. You're pushing towards yourself as you go. Constant pressure. And you slide all the way up to that 12. And you can do it fast or slow. Right, and the next tab, that's a slide. And the next tab is showing you the same thing, but you're starting at 12 and and you slide all the way down to 1, and you keep that pressure as well. Like that. So it's the same with the hammer-on and the pull-off. You're playing it once and you're getting more notes out of it. Now you don't want to hear each note usually. You want to go from that to that. Now slides aren't usually this long. You don't usually play a slide that long. They're usually from one note to another. So like we've been practicing with our hammer-ons and our pull-offs, we've been playing in that minor scale in the open position. We're going to practice sliding between a few notes. So let's have a look at our next tab in our exercise. It's going to show us where to slide from. And for this, it doesn't really matter what finger we're using for now. We're going to use our first finger just to practice. It says it wants you to play the first fret, then the next note is the third on your thickest string. Let's take a close look. And then they want you to get to this note here, which is your 3. And you see the little line going up. That means you're going to slide it. There's a little S on top. That stands for slide. It's not always there. So if you see the little diagonal line, you know you've got to slide to that note. So 1, 3. You're going to play 1, slide to 3. And you can do it fast or you can do it slow. And that's going to depend on where they want the emphasis on that slide in the song. If they want you to go, then we'll learn how to read that. Or if they want you to go and put emphasis on that note, then there's a particular way that's written. But for now, we don't need to worry. We're just practicing the slide. So practice it slow, and then practice it fast. And practice aiming. Again, this is a sort of comfort thing that you get a bit of muscle memory and you learn how to get to that note without going too far or too short. You want to get from there to there. And that's going to be a comfort thing. So practicing it fast and practicing it slow for now. That is basically a slide, and now in the rest of the tab it's going to show you to go from different sort of frets to different frets. So the next part they're asking us is from 2 to 3. And for now we're going to practice on our second thickest string with our second finger, just to give this some practice. We're going to go from 2, and we're going to play that note. And just slide it across to 3. Keeping the pressure on the guitar the whole time on the fretboard, pushing through it. Make sure that your note is always sounded. So you can do it slow and fast. Next string, they're asking you to do the same. 6, 5, 4 on your D string from 2 to 3. Then a little faster. And slow. Next string on your third thinnest from 2 to 4. You just practice sliding that however you like. Next string, we're going to go back to our first finger. Second thinnest string, they want you to play the first, slide to the third. And fast. And the last string, 1 to 3. And fast. Good. And that's how to do a basic sort of slide through your minor shape scale that we learned at the bottom here. So you got your hammer-ons, your pull-offs, your trills, and slides now. So now you're sliding between notes. So you're still getting 2 notes for the price of 1, but now you're sliding to it and it gives you a different sort of sound. The reason we do that is because when you're playing guitar, sometimes a hammer-on is more suitable, sometimes a slide is, sometimes a pull-off is. There's a lot of variation, there's a lot of different things you can do to sort of make your music sound interesting. So for example, you can go in a sort of bluesy sort of manner. You can go hammer-on. You don't have to learn this now, it's an example. A hammer-on and a slide. And there's a couple of more techniques thrown in there. So that is how you start incorporating the different techniques into your playing. So the slide, again, 2 notes for the price of 1. You're moving up and you're moving down along the guitar and keeping pressure on the neck, and you're sliding from one note to another. So you've got a tab there with an exercise which is showing you on your scale, but I want you to practice going from anywhere you like and just practice moving around. Now you get to slide up and you can go higher, and like we did with the 12, you can go lower. So the last little exercise we're going to look at is just sort of sliding back within that scale. We're going to start, as the tab asks, at the 3rd fret on your thinnest string, and we're going to use first finger and we're going to play that note, and then you slide back to 1. And you can do it slow. It loses its sound a little bit, or you can do it fast as well. So the idea is to keep nice and tight with that finger, and that's the way you ensure that it sounds good. Alright, and then the next string, 3 to 1, the same deal. Nice and fast or slow. Next string, 4 to 2 on the string here. Next string, 3 and 2. And the same for the next string up. You can practice doing it with different fingers. And the last string. Right, that's basically how to do a slide. So you're going to practice sliding anywhere you want on the guitar, and then work your way to sliding within that scale that we've done. You can even try sliding in the major scale if you want to spice it up some more. So you go back to term 1 and you re-go over that major shape in the open position. You practice doing slides there, practice doing hammer-ons there, practice doing trills there. Do all of that sort of stuff within your scales and it'll always sound good. But experiment and just practice everywhere you like. So again, it's a 2 for the price of 1 sort of special. You're playing a note and you're getting another note, and you're just sliding into that note. And that is basically how to play a slide. Bends. Right, we're going to take a look at something called a bend now. It works in the same sort of way that your hammer-ons and your slides and all that sort of work. You're playing a note and you're going to reach another note. Now we've hammered on to reach that note, and we've done a slide to reach that note. Now we're going to literally bend the strings to reach another note. So you play one note and you get the second one free again. Bends are a little bit trickier, and we don't look at them too much in the sort of second term because we're not going to use them a lot. But I'm going to show it to you anyway. Let's take a look at the tab. The first thing we're going to play is a 3, and then just after that there's a little line that goes up and it goes to a 4 in brackets. Now, like with all the other sort of techniques we've started learning, it's a 2 for the price of 1. We're going to be playing 3 and not playing 4, but we need to get to that note. So instead of sliding or hammering on. We're now going to bend. And to play this bend, we're going to place our third finger on the third thinnest string. These two fingers go just behind it so that they can give a bit of support and they can help bend the string up. Now the important part when playing a bend is this finger here that's bending needs to keep a lot of pressure on the fretboard, and when we move it up, because that's what we're going to be doing, we need to try and scrape it through the fretboard and kind of feel that we're pulling along this fretboard so that we don't lose our sort of tension and have the finger sort of come off, because then we lose the sound. So from here, we've got to get to that fourth fret. This is a half bend. So that's a slide to it. You can hear 3 to 4. You can hear that note. Same thing with the bend. All of your fingers on, pushing really tight, and scrape up on your fretboard until you basically are reaching this note. So this string is bending up until it reaches this note here. Just like that. Now we are bending 3 to 4 on one string. This is the only string we're going to focus on in this section on bends. Alright, now we're on to the full bend, which is next to it. Instead of going 3 to 4, we're going to go 3 to 5. So starting on this third fret, we're going to go. We've got to reach that note. And basically you're bending up way higher. Instead of bending it, you've got to go a little bit further. It feels very difficult at first. So you've got to get a lot of strength in this hand. You've really got to push nice and tight and push hard and bend all the way up. And there it is. So you can hear the difference between the half bend and the full bend. Right, and that is a basic bend. Now, on to the next part. We're going to do a bend and a release. So, asking us to play 3, bend up to 4, and then come straight back down to 3, all in one go. So it's going to go 3, and back to 3. 3, 4, 3. And you're going to do that really slow. So 3, up to 4, and then without doing anything, just bend it back down. Now when you're first learning to play the guitar, you're going to lose the sound of that. Nylon strings, also, it's much easier to lose that sound. A steel string and electric guitar, on those strings you'll find it a little bit easier to bend. Might be a little bit tougher on our fingers, because they're sort of sharper strings, but you won't have to bend as high on those guitars, and it'll sustain a little bit better. So 3, up to 4, and straight back down. This is what it's going to look and sound like. So you're going up with your bend to 4 and straight back down. You can do it fast or you can do it slow. Or you can go. And the same thing applies for a half bend. We want to do a full bend as well. Much harder. So you're bending up, and then you're relaxing your hands. A half bend and a full bend and a release. So bend and release. Right, and on to the third section, a bend and a pre-bend release. Right, so what they're asking us to do is they're asking us to go 3, up to 4, and we're going up to 4 by a bend. Once we're there, we need to play that 4 again, and then relax it. So it's like going up and down in one go. We're now going up and down in 2 goes. So we're going 3, up to 4. We then play that 4 already bent, pre-bent, and it's release. It's a pre-bend, release, and release just means bringing that back down. So we're going bend, then we play it again, and release. Bend, it's pre-bent, release. Alright, and the same for a full bend. Much trickier again. And you're going to hear other strings sort of making noises and doing their things as you sort of practice. Sometimes your finger slips onto the next string. Very cool for electric guitar with some overdrive, but not particularly for this. So you're going to have to practice really slowly and accurately and getting a lot of muscle memory in this hand. And your hand should be getting nice and tired by now, but we're going to go through all of them and then we'll be able to stop the video and continue and go over them bit by bit whilst referring to our notes. So, bend. Once we're up at 4, we play 4 again and pre-bend it and release. It is a pre-bend release. Bend, pre-bend release. And the same for a full note. A lot trickier. Alright, now to the last part before we take a breather. We're going to do a pre-bend release. So this is asking us to go up to 4, but we're going up to 4 with a bend already. So it's already pre-bent at 4, and we're releasing. So it's just the second part of that last one we did. You pre-bend, so you bend it up to 4, roughly for now. You'll get a feel of when you move your fingers up, you'll know if you've reached the note or not, and you'll know if you've reached a half a note or a full note. You'll just get a feel for that. So for now, you just start with it nice and bent. You play that note, and you let it relax down. We're going from 4 to 3. That's a pre-bend release on its own. So we're going bend up, and then do a release, pre-bend release. Or we could just start with it up. Pre-bend release. That's a half a note. Then we go right up, and we bring it down for a full note, for a full pre-bend release. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through those quickly, those 4 different types. You've got the half bend, and a full bend. That's your one, your bend. Then you've got a bend and release. Where you're getting 3 notes. You can do that as a half bend or a full bend. Then bend, pre-bend release. We're going to bend up, then play again to release it. Bend, pre-bend release. And you can do it for a half or for a full. And the last one, a pre-bend release. Alright, and that is basically how to do a bend, but the tricky part about this is it takes a lot of practice, a lot of patience as well. This isn't easy, so you're probably ready to give up playing the guitar. Don't do it just yet. Give that a lot of time. Just practice bending, practice using all of your fingers to hold a string and just bend it up. Just practice moving those fingers up and keeping that pressure on the guitar. This isn't going to come quickly. It's going to take a lot of practice, so you need a lot of patience for this. So don't stress it out, just take it easy, keep practicing, and eventually with time you'll get there. And that is basically how to play bends. Palm muting and damping. Right, we're going to take a look at something for a bit of our right hand and a little bit of our left hand, and this is a sort of tonal control of playing your guitar. So the first thing we're going to do is look at something called palm muting. We're going to be muting our strings on the guitar, but not like you would on the DVD player. It doesn't cut the sound completely. It's like switching your tweeters off and letting your sub continue playing. There's still sort of sound coming out of your guitar, and it's not completely dead. So I'm just going to show you what that sounds like. This is playing an E minor chord without palm muting. And with palm muting, so you can hear that difference. You can hear there's a clean tone, and then there's a muted tone. It's like a muffled tone. That's palm muting. Alright, so let's have a look at the tab in our first exercise. And what we'll notice straight away is that there is a 4/4 at the beginning of the bar, which means there are going to be 4 counts in this bar. If you look next to it, you can see it's broken down into 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we're going to be doing 8 things in that bar. So if you think back to the clock, and you think of them as being a half a second each. Alright, so what we've got there, if we look at it closer, we see that the notes aren't all following sort of one after another. There's a lot of those notes are all in line with each other. You've got, if you start from the thickest string, you've got a 0. Then they're asking us to play 2nd fret, and then they're asking us to play 2nd fret again. So we're actually playing 0, 2, and 3 if you look at them in a line. We're playing those together. So we're playing an E minor together, like that. That is your first line of numbers. You'll notice that is done 8 times. That makes up our counts. So what they're asking us to do is they're asking us to play the 0, the 2, and the 2 at the same time. Now we've learned chords and chord diagrams, and this is the way in which you're shown how to play chords in a tab. So it's the first time we're looking at that. 0, 2, and 2 in line with each other. So that means we're playing that together, like that. Then you'll notice there's another 0, 2, 2, 0, 2, 2, 0, 2, 2, 8 times. So they're asking us to play this E minor, and it's just these top 3 strings, 0, 2, 2. They're asking us to play those together because they're in line with each other. They're asking us to do that 8 times. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that is how chords are written out in tabs, and they're showing you how to count and strum that. Now there's no up or down arrow indicating whether you're strumming up or down or anything like that at the moment. So we're just going to take it for granted that we're going down, 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 down the whole way through. Unless otherwise indicated, that's kind of what you would stick to. So we're playing that E minor 8 times with 4 counts. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Alright. And now we've got to look at the last little indication on that tab, and that's there's a little PM underneath that. So what that PM means is palm muting. We're now going to play that E chord 4 counts with our 8 strums. We're going to do that whilst we mute our strings. So let's take a look at the closest look at our right hand side. It's telling us to palm mute that whole bar. So all of those 8 strums are going to be palm muted. So we're literally going to take the palm of our hand and very, very, very gently, we're going to bring it from behind the bridge. We're going to just slide it on over just until it sort of just goes over this bridge piece, like that. Now your palm's probably going to sort of tilt and twist, and for now it's not a big deal and it's not a big problem because we're only playing with 3 strings. So if you're playing it with your palm just behind the bridge piece, it's still sounding the moment we bring this palm over and we just gently touch the strings, we get that muted sound. We don't want the sound completely dead, so don't push too hard here. Otherwise, when you play your chords and your scales, you're not going to hear anything. This palm just gently rests on top of the strings. Very gently. And that's going to basically just sort of switch our tweeters off, as it were, and keep this up blowing. So you get a much sort of lower, deeper sort of sound in your chord. Right, so we're going to hold the E minor and focus on this side. So we've got our E minor, and we're going to take, without the palm muting, and you notice how my fingers now, I'm holding these two fingers together, my thumb and my index finger. I'm just gently holding them together. I'll explain in depth why a little bit later, but it involves using plectrums and stuff like that. So for now, just hold your two fingers together and play an open chord like that, just the top three strings. Now you're going to take the palm of your hand, and you're just going to, from behind the bridge, you're just going to gently take it just over the bridge piece. And you'll notice the more you take it, that's too dead. You want the notes to sort of ring a little bit still. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Take your palm away a little bit. And then you bring your palm over just a tiny bit. And you can hear the difference. That's the sort of difference between open and palm muted. Alright, so this is also, it's not very easy, and it's like all the other things we've done in this lesson, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time. So the idea is to be able to play your chords, and you can use any chords you like. For now, I'll just stick to the E minor to practice that palm muting. So you need to ensure that you still get a sound out of your guitar and the strings aren't too dead. And then you also need to make sure that you're muting a little bit. So the best way to do that is to hold the E minor like we've just done, and to practice doing it without palm muting, and then bring your palm on and try and do it with palm muting, and you'll get a feel for it. It's a coordination thing. With a bit of time and practice, you'll get that sort of deep sort of sound. Now, this is used sort of scattered in amongst your playing as well, and you get strumming patterns that have some palm muting in it, and then some sort of no palm muting in it, and it sort of mixes a little bit. A good example of some palm muting with palm muting and without palm muting in the same sort of chords is Save Tonight, Eagle Eye Cherry. You're playing your chords, but you're palm muting some of it whilst you strum and all that sort of stuff, which we get onto later on. We will learn Eagle Eye Cherry at some point, and we'll actually learn how to play that strumming pattern so that you can use a bit of palm muting and a bit of sort of open, normal, clean strumming. All right, so that's the palm muting aspect. We need to look at something called sort of damping your strings, which is going to be on this side. It's the same sort of concept. You want to mute out your strings, but you still want to play something. But these damping that we're going to learn for the left hand, it's like a left hand palm mute as well. It's going to be completely dead. We're going to get a completely dead sound. So we're going to take a closer look at that tab now. And what we're looking at now is just X's everywhere. You'll notice there's an X on the thickest, X on the second thickest, and an X on the third thickest. What that means, and they're sort of in line with each other, so that means you've got to play those three strings X'd together, like we did with our E minor. So we're playing this string, and this string together. But when you see that X, you mute your strings. You can literally just take your hand and place it on top of the strings, and you mute it. And it gives you that sound. That's open. And these are the X's. Now they're asking us to play these top 3 strings, and they're asking us to play 8 counts within that 4-bar time signature. So we're doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and again we're going to be using our fingers like this. I'm going to show you over here so that you can have a look. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and again 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Alright, so that's basically it, and that is incorporated within our playing. So the string damping is when you just hold your strings and you get that sound. And then depending on what you do, it's going to give you a different sound, and your different strumming patterns are going to create different sort of songs and all that sort of stuff. An example which we're learning later on in this term is Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, where they use some of this. They're going to be going. Sound. So there's 2 things we need to learn in this lesson. I'm going to keep it brief and we're going to keep it simple as well. The concept of palm muting, dampening the sound that your guitar produces, and the damping of the strings on this side. So you need to stop the video and you need to practice this palm muting a hang of a lot. So you can practice with your E minor chord, and you just practice doing your 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you practice without the palm muting and you practice with the palm muting, and you slowly try and get that balance. From that palm muting, there's also a lot of other things that we can do, which we look at a little later in the term as well. From that original palm muting where we're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we can just sort of put emphasis on certain parts, and we can unpalm mute certain parts, and it creates different sounds. I'll give you another example. So you get that sound as well. So you got the eagle-eyed cherry sort of style of playing palm muting, and then you get that sort of more rock sort of style of palm muting. So the palm muting is a little tool that we use to sort of spice up our playing even more. Alright, and that is basically how to play palm muting and damping. Alternate picking. Right, we're going to look at something now called alternate picking, and what that is we're going to be a little bit more economical when we play and pick our notes on the guitar. So we're going to alternate. First thing we're going to do is we're going to alternate fingers when we're using our fingers to pick, and then we're going to learn how to do alternate picking with Plectrum, which we're going to learn about now. I'm going to show you exactly what that is. So first thing, let's have a look at the tab. Okay, and what we've got in the tab is we've got an I, M, I, M, I, M, I, M for the thickest string, and then the same for the rest of the strings. So what is that asking us to do? For our right hand, so let's take a look at our right hand. We're going to pick with our index finger, then our middle finger on the thickest string. So don't worry about the left hand for now, we're just looking at the right hand. We're going to pick index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, and middle. So that's all alternate picking really is. It's alternating between fingers when you pick and play the guitar. So it's asking us to do that 8 times, and we're going to do it as a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we go straight down to the next string and we do the same. And the next string. Next string. alternate picking using our fingers. So we're alternating between I and M, index and middle. We learn the rest of the sort of fingers, their names for this side and for this side in one of the next videos. So for now it's just I and M, index and middle. So we alternate between our picking, using that finger, that finger, that finger, that finger, that finger, that finger. So it's just doing that. Alright, so it's a simple thing and you get through it fairly quickly, but you need to practice the hang a lot, because when we get on to our next exercise, we're going to learn that it gets a little bit more tricky as we go along. So give it lots of practice and get really comfortable with it. And you can practice on your thinnest string, that's probably the easiest. And you just keep alternating. And then try the next string and the next string, and then just practice moving string to string. Alright, so the next exercise we look at, let's have a look at that. That is showing us the same I, M, I, M, I, M, I, M, except now we're only picking once on each string. So the first thing we do is we go onto our thickest string. We don't worry about this left hand. We're picking the thickest string with our index finger. We then got to go onto the second thickest with our middle finger. Then we go down another string with our index, another string with our middle, then index, and then middle. So this finger, the index finger, is taking this, then it's taking that and that. There, and there, sorry, that one. So it's skipping strings. And this middle finger is taking the in-between ones. So you're going there, 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 and you're kind of just walking through the strings. But once you get to that top, that thin string, then it walks backwards. Index, middle, index, middle. And then you keep repeating over and over that exercise. So we can start by doing this: index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index. And you just keep going through the strings like that. Alright, and it's a bit tricky in the beginning, but slowly get used to it. So practice just walking through the strings like that. So, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, etc., etc., etc. And that's all you're going to do, is you're just going to practice. And you just keep going. Alright, that's the second exercise in alternate picking with your fingers. So stop the video and practice that. Practice going from on the same string and moving through all of them, doing whichever string you like, and then practice moving one string at a time using your index, middle, index, middle, index, middle. This takes a hang of a lot of practice, and it's slowly incorporated and used in our playing. Not often so much walking through all of the strings, and you often use your ring finger as well. But it's a great exercise. It gets you more comfortable with picking the strings, and as you move around your chords and as you move around sort of all your strumming and all that sort of stuff. Alright, so next thing we're going to look at now is using a plectrum. Alright, so if you haven't got one, go grab some of these. You can get softer ones and harder ones. Just get a little bit of a mix, because I'm going to explain to you the different thicknesses and what they're for. So, like we did in our palm muting, and I close my fingers like that, we now just take a plectrum and put that in there. Alright, so that is basically how you hold a plectrum. Don't overthink it, don't worry about it, and you're going to drop these things about 1,000 times. You just slowly get used to holding a plectrum. It seems silly, but you actually do. You drop these things all the time. So don't stress about it, hold it nice and tight, just do a natural sort of grip, like that. And it works very much the same. We've got your upside down U, so we're looking at the next exercise, and then we've got our V for coming up. Down, up, down, up. And that's alternate picking with a plectrum, right? And for this sort of alternate picking like we're doing now, you can use a slightly harder plectrum. If the plectrum is harder, the harder your plectrum goes, the quicker it moves through that string. So if it moves quicker, then you can get back quicker. So you basically will be able to play a lot faster with a harder plectrum. And then your softer plectrums are more for sort of strumming and all that sort of stuff. Alright, so using your plectrum, you've got the upside down U for a down and the V for an up. And you just alternate between that. And then next string. Alright, that's much quicker. So you don't have to get that fast in this term. You can just sort of practice being able to do it and just kind of get the concept of alternating. You're always going up and down and well, down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up. As soon as you've gone up on your last one, you go down onto your next string. You do it 8 times. And then down onto your next string. So even if you lose count, don't worry about it. You just focus on once you've gone up and you want to move to the next string, your down movement goes on to the next string. This is really just practice, so it doesn't matter how many times you do it or how you do it. You just got to make sure that you're alternating with this plectrum and you're just rocking it back and forth like that. That's not the most economical thing in the world to do right now, but it helps you get the concept of alternating if you're going like that. So don't exaggerate your movement too much, but just know that you're going down and up and down and up and down and up. And then the last exercise, you're going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. All on different strings, so you're doing each string once. Down, then up onto the next string. Down, up on the next string. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Alright, then you just keep practicing that exercise through and through. The important part is to get the feel in your right hand rather than overthink it. The minute you start overthinking that, you're just going to start making mistakes and it's going to get frustrating. Also, just do it for a short period of time and then stop. And then it won't sort of get confusing and you don't get overwhelmed by it. So just practice it a little bit. Just work on your alternate picking for a bit and then work on something else. And then every now and then just come back to the alternate picking. And then slowly throughout the term, we start using alternate picking when you're playing a song or what have you, and then I'll also detail that when it gets to that point. So now it's just, again, like everything else, it's just practice. And that is basically alternate picking. Vibrato, right. This one is relatively sort of quick and simple. Vibrato, when you're playing a musical instrument, is a manipulation of the note to sort of change its pitch and frequency. So basically what it is, if you play a note, and when you look at the tab, you've got your second fret on your third string. That's your note there, that A. Now that's if you play it just normally. We'll play over here so you can see. Now above that there's a sort of little squiggle. Now you get a short squiggle and a long squiggle, and basically that's telling us to play vibrato. And how we do that is we play our note and we bend it up and down like that. And what it does is it changes the sort of the pitch of your guitar of that note, like a bend where you're bending up. Now vibrato, you don't bend to another note or anything like that. You just play it and you just give it a bit of a wiggle like that. And it makes the sort of note sound like it's wobbling. do vibrato anywhere. Like that. That is the basics of vibrato. So we've got a sort of short vibrato and a longer vibrato, and that's just basically telling us how much we need to wiggle our finger. So you're either going to be doing it subtly, or you can do it quite dramatically, like that. Right, that is basically vibrato. So you push nice and tight, and you sort of shake your finger. Make sure you're pushing right through, and you're keeping that pressure on like you do with your slides and your hammer-ons and all that. On your thinnest sort of string, you'd need to go up a little bit, because if you come down, you're just going to go off the fretboard. So that's more of a... So you get that sort of slight wobble. So with and without vibrato, you just get that slight sort of ambient sort of wobble. And that is basically how to do vibrato. Harmonics. Right, another little thing we're going to look at is a harmonic on a guitar. Basically, harmonics are these. You can play a note and it sort of sounds, and it gives you that, that pitch, and it determines what note it is. Like this is an E. Now, if we go up to the 12th fret, and we find that same E over here, because that's also an E, and we learn a detailed sort of explanation on where the notes on the frets and all the different notes, what their names are, a little bit later on. But for now, we know that this is an E, and all the way up at 12, which are your double dots, that's also an E. But what we do to create that harmonic sound is right on the fret, right on that fret over here, we just gently place our finger. So let's have a look at that tab now as well. On the tab it's telling us there's to play a 12, but there's a little sort of diamond above it. That little diamond means it's a natural harmonic. Alright, and I'll tell you the sort of the difference between natural harmonics and sort of the other harmonics you get in a minute. So a natural harmonic is just going to resonate and reverberate and create that E as well. So on your 12th fret, you're going to go, instead of going behind the fret, you're going to go right on the fret. And then you're going to release all the pressure on that finger, and you're just going to very, very, very gently touch that. And it's going to make that sort of noise. Now for a natural harmonic, you can do that on all these 12 frets here. So give it some practice on that top one till you can get that. You really have to push very lightly with this finger. Next string, it's telling us to play the 12th fret with a diamond on it. That's a harmonic. Next one. Sounds like the elevator is about to open. That's what you want to get. So you hear it with, without. Let's do these bottom 3 strings. And with. Now you don't have to do that little roll yet. I'm just showing you what it sounds like. Right, and if you're pushing too tight, you're just sort of muting the strings and you don't get a sound. That way you do. And I'm just playing 3 harmonics together. That is a harmonic. That's a natural harmonic. Those you just find on your guitar without having to do anything. It's 12 frets away. So if you start with open, you get your E, you're going to get that on the 12th fret. Those are harmonics, you need to kind of know those. You can also get some natural harmonics on the 5th fret. They're not as easy. And the 7th. But they're not easy to get. But 12, there they are. Alright, so it just shows you the number with a little triangle above it. That is a harmonic. So play around with these. It's a great exercise for you to sort of learn dynamics and sort of technical dynamics and how to play with. Sometimes you need more force and more power, like vibrato, you need to push nice and tight and wiggle it. This you have to be very gentle. So when you're playing music, it's great when you can sort of play sort of a little bit more aggressively, and then you can play a lot softer and you get a lot more dynamic out of your music. So this is a great exercise to practice getting those harmonics on the 12th fret, and you can do any one you like that, or you can do them together. Alright, and that is basically how to play harmonics. Tabs and plectrums. Right, in this section we're just going to look at a little bit of sort of information. So we're going to learn how to name our hands, we're going to learn a bit about how the tabs are morphing and plectrums. So the first thing, Pima, that is basically for your picking and strumming hand. It's a way to remember the names of your fingers. It's P, I, M, and A. Pulgar, Indice, Medio, Annular. Alright, they've given your fingers names. So when we're playing a piece of music or we're learning a song and they want you to pick it a particular way to make it easier or to help you out, then often they just detail that in the tab or in the music score, and they tell you which fingers and which sort of finger pattern to use. It makes playing a lot simpler and a lot easier when they tell you rather than figuring it out on your own. So in your tab, and you've got sort of a picking song, and it's going to tell you underneath, it might tell you which fingers to use. So we need to learn them. It's P, I, M, A. Pima. P, I, M, A. It's for this hand here. P, I, M, A. So when you see further on in the term, and if I've written that in, then you'll know what's going on, and I'll also detail that again for you. Alright, so that is your picking and strumming hand. Your other hand, it's very simple. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. I've kept it so much simpler. First finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so in your tab or in your music, they might tell you when you sort of need to play something, they might tell you which finger is going to be easier to use on this side, and then they've just numbered it for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so memorize those, learn them. When they come up, I'll be sure to let you know. Second part are tabs. Our tabs are just going to change their sort of look a tiny bit. If you look at the screen, you'll see that you've got the tabs we have been using, and now we're looking at a slightly sort of different tab, the one underneath. That is the way that you find them on the internet, and it's the way they're written out, and it's the most common sort of format. It's basically exactly the same, it's just a bit smaller, so you can fit more information on a page, and it's just a little bit simpler with, instead of having solid lines, they've got dotted lines. Alright, so that's tab format you'll find in your notes, and I might show you on screen, or I might keep it the same way. So just bear in mind that if you see a tab and it looks sort of dotted and funny, it's not a mistake, it's supposed to be like that. And as I teach you how to go on the internet and find tabs and find accurate tabs, then you'll see those as well. Alright, and the last thing is plectrums. I started using that in the alternate picking. I was using this plectrum here. That is a hard plectrum, okay? It's literally thicker plastic, so it's harder to bend. Then you get different types of plectrums. You get these shark fin ones, which are just a different shape, and they've got sort of different edges and stuff for playing the guitar and different techniques. It's basically exactly the same. It's a piece of plastic, and they come in sort of different thicknesses as well. This is a medium thickness, so we've got a heavy plectrum and a medium plectrum. All right, and then we got one more plectrum, which is the thin plectrum. It's also a shark fin. All right, so you got thick, medium, and thin. When we play the guitar, we'll use appropriately the plectrum that it's sort of the song or the particular style which you're playing is more geared towards. So if you're just strumming along and you're strumming chords, we're going to learn to strum with this softer plectrum. If you need to do some strumming and some picking, you use a medium sort of plectrum. And if you're going to just play some sort of picking in some scales, and you use a harder one. That's just a guideline. It's a preference thing as well. So get some plectrums, thick, medium, and thin. And throughout the term, when we learn the songs, you're either going to use a plectrum or you're going to use your fingers. And I'll go through that with you. It's a personal preference thing. So some people prefer playing with plectrums, some people don't. I personally prefer using my hands, but you'll find out soon enough what you prefer. Give it some time though, so practice playing with and without a plectrum, sort of all the songs we learn, and you'll get an idea. But you need to give it some time because it takes a while. Those plectrums are awkward and they often fall out of your hands, and don't give up on them too soon. Alright, so that is basically the three things that we just want to bear in mind. You'll find sort of more detailed explanation in the notes as well. Alright, and that is basically Pima, Tams, and Plectrums. And with that is our first lesson in term number 2. So well done. It was a lot of information and a lot of stuff to practice. It's your sort of little toolbox of all sorts of tricks and all sorts of cool aspects of playing the guitar. So well done for getting through that, and take your time with it. You've got a whole term to sort of get used to these things. So don't stress out, and look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. So if you need to get a hold of us and you've got comments, queries, or anything like that, you can find us on Facebook at the link, The Sound of Our Cape Town, and we'll see you in lesson number 2.